They say professional sports are very physically taxing. Depending on where you play, however, it can be even more taxing and sparked a debate about whether established free agents will want to go to these franchises where taxes are very high. Pat McAfee highlighted yesterday that Sauce Gardner will lose a substantial and hefty amount of his $33 million contract after taxes. You have to consider that he's a draft pick, though, and not a free agent, so the circumstances might be different, but the money going to Uncle Sam is the same. For example, the AFC West is a money vacuum when it comes to taxes on athletes. Denver, LA, Vegas, and Kansas City make up the most taxed division in the league. Up in New York, both franchises have struggled on the field, while players are taxed pretty heavily off of it. What free agent with leverage and options wants to pay back that amount of money, especially when you haven't done anything on the field lately? The least taxed division in the NFL is the AFC South, mainly because 3 of the 4 teams play in states with no income tax: Florida, Tennessee, and Texas. And the tax bills for the players on the Texans, Jags, and Titans rank among the lowest in the league. Let me remind you, I'm just talking about the NFL. This goes for other sports too. So if you're somebody like Deebo Samuel, why would you want to go to a place where you have to pay the highest taxes? I wouldn't. This could be a legitimate problem for teams and cities where the taxes are high, and it's a matter of time before we start hearing about how this affects decisions and the negative impact it could have on major free agents. And make no mistake, this isn't a new problem the players have faced. They discuss this all the time. It's just now starting to take the forefront in a national conversation. Kind of like Blue Box in the Glass game. But
last game,
bringing in David Cohn, my brother Blaine here. I'm not a tax expert, okay? I'm not getting a scholarship to TurboTax or anything like that. But I do know the simple, basic parts of it. And I know the NFL has rules built kind of within the tax system. It's different than just going to, work a job at Burger King. I get that. But if I'm a free agent with leverage and options, why would I want to go to a place like the Jets or the Giants? Or really, it's crazy you see some of the guys the Chargers picked up, but why would I want to go there and have to pay basically half of what I'm making back in taxes when there are other better options?
And those teams aren't competitive.
That's exactly
That's the thing. Like if you're a young man who wants to be in a big market, we were talking about Thibodeau really wanted to get drafted at 4 or 5 to go play for the Jets or the Giants because he has a New York personality and wants to be a part of that. Broadway Joe Namath wanted to be in New York. That was great for him. I know that was a long time ago, but still, if you want to be in one of those big markets, like it's a multifaceted thing, right? Yeah. But I think you will start to see more and more free agents say, but wait, those teams aren't necessarily competitive, and it's not just the NFL. The Knicks, if the Knicks can spend all the money in the world on Zion Williamson, you may say, well, you know what? They're not that competitive. I'm going to have to pay X, Y, and Z more in taxes, and then whatever else he gets to experience in a different state. Like us, for instance, the company that we work at is moved to Tennessee before we were affiliated with them. That was one of the decisions factored in with our decision. But one thing I will say is cities are always going to set the tax rate at the highest they can possibly set it. If they could take everything, they would. And citizens always want to pay the least amount. If we could pay nothing, we would, right? So it's like you try and find that balance, and in some of these bigger markets, maybe it's getting out of hand, but I don't think you'll see it play out in the draft like Sauce Gardner got drafted.
Two totally different
things. It's going to have to be free agents. It's going to have to be big name free agents who say, you know what? I don't think I'll go play for the Knicks. I don't think I'll go play for the Golden State Warriors or something like that. I think I'll go to these other states, maybe in Middle America, and then maybe you see what happens after that.
Yeah, well, we talked about it yesterday, Blaine. We talked about Giannis, too. I know Milwaukee's not a little place, but it's not nearly the market and tax the way it is in other places. If I'm established, like Debo's a great example. He has leverage and options.
That is a good
There's
example.
multiple places that Debo can go. If I'm really looking at my money, and like I said off the top, this isn't a new problem for players. It's not like this just got entered the equation. Like somebody woke up yesterday on Pat McAfee was like, wait a minute, you have to pay different taxes in this place and that place. That's not what we're saying. When it comes down, when you have a family, and I know they're making buku amount of money, but if I get signed for $33 million, whatever it is, allegedly, whatever, and I got to pay half of that back right off the rip before I have to pay for a house in New York, which isn't exactly cheap. I don't know how many people have cars in New York, but you're going to want a couple cars. I'm sure Sauce does. That's why you're going to rent probably instead of buy a house. But to me, why would I go there when the Jets aren't very good, when the Giants aren't very good? The Chargers are up and coming. There's always anomalies to the rule, and some guys, when you're young, going places is totally different than when you're a free agent and you have leverage and options. Why would I ever go to a place where I have to pay half the taxes? Joe Rogan left Cali. Ben Shapiro and them left Cali. It's not just sports. It's everywhere.
Well, the thing about what it's come down to now is people care more about their money, I think, than winning. somewhat.
I think I think it's gonna
somewhat,
happen for a
unless
while.
I mean, you can look at certain guys through the league. I know Tom Brady's one of those guys of taking deals and stuff like that. But people want to get paid. They want to get paid. And if I'm the Jets and I'm the Giants, something has to change, because if you're a big-time guy, you're a max contract guy, why would you ever want to go there? And if you're Sauce Gardner, buddy, you need to have a good year one. You need to have a good year one, because cornerback is one of those positions to where they will put you up there, but they will take you down as quick as they put you up.
Oh, you remember how Eli Apple, when he was coming out, Eli Apple,
even Bradbury from the Packers.
Yeah,
went to a Pro Bowl 2 years ago.
Now he couldn't cover a middle school girls wrestling.
As quick as you rise, the quicker you can fall. So, Sauce, you need to have a good year. The media markets out there are huge, but you have to be such a type of guy to really blow up out there. Like, you look at the Knicks right now, you got guys, but you don't have that guy. Like, you really have to be a huge face, a huge name, and have a great first rookie year, in my opinion. Because if you're Stingley right now, you know how excited you are?
Oh.
You know how excited you are? Look what he made to look what Sauce made at the Jets, and they can't do anything about it. It's going to hurt free agency, but I feel more bad about the guys in the draft.
That's why if I'm Trayvon Walker and I go to the Jags #1 overall, I'm not too upset about it. Like, I'm not paying income. And I know they somewhat make up for not having an income tax in other places. I get it. Like I said, I'm not a civics professor, but I understand it to a certain point. It's a pretty simple mathematical formula when I'm looking at
not only that, but
what you're going to take away from me.
That too, but they also have to pay taxes in states they go and play away games at. Remember, I think it was Brandon Boykin, one of the guys who we had on when we were talking about this behind the scenes a little bit, which is like, yeah, last season we had to go play in XYZ states. I have to pay taxes in all those states, and then when I play home games as well. So it gets complicated.
Well, it's funny. We talk about it being in all sports. When I was researching this last night and kind of looking through everything and looking where everybody's stacked up, texted a buddy of mine who's on the PGA Tour, and he's like, yeah, there's a big difference in winning a tournament in California and winning one in North Carolina.
Gotcha, yeah.
There's a huge difference when it comes down to it on what you're taking.
That's interesting. So that was the PGA front, right?
Yep.
So, let's talk about MLB and NBA for 1 second, because NBA, if your team can offer you more money with the Supermax than a different team can, right? Is that
I believe
correct?
so, yes.
They can offer you a little bit more than the highest next.
Like Jokic.
So, like Jokic. I think that's the way that it still works. So that's where it gets kind of interesting, which is, okay, the team I'm with can offer me more on my next contract than any other team can, but what if I'm in a state where the tax bracket is so much higher? Or with the MLB, for instance, where they can't exceed the salary cap, they can go into that luxury tax situation. What if a big market team like the Yankees or Dodgers want you? They can pay you more than the other teams. They're willing to go into the luxury tax for you, but at the same time, you have to deal with those states' taxes. That's where it gets kind of interesting.
It's almost like a robbing Peter to pay Paul sometimes situation. But I wonder, and I know we'll never get this number, how many decisions have been made in free agency? Let's just isolate a sport like the NFL, for example. How many decisions have been made by big-time NFL free agents when it came down to the final two places? If tax, how much tax had a big effect? I'd be willing to bet it's a lot higher percentage than a lot of people think. Because it's something that's not really
on the college football front right now. Lincoln Riley left Oklahoma to go out to California.
Well, look at NIL and USC.
I know. And our boy Coward said, oh, look, I thought nobody wanted to come to California. So it'll be interesting to see how this plays out moving forward and if certain states with big-time markets change their ways.
I don't know how you change the whole well, if you can take away, I guess, the mask mandate because of Kyrie Irving, I guess you can do really about anything you want, but who knows? Blaine, what's the Booster Club saying?
Well, everyone's thinks it's pretty funny that I have glasses on, wearing a jacket, and I'm talking about taxes. So they didn't really...
you look like a young Dr. Rick. You look like a young Dr. Rick. Either that, or you look like you're like the bad stand-in. You're like the bad stand-in for Robin Williams on Good Will
Hunting.
Hunting.
I get something positive out of it?
That's a good dude. Robin Williams, a good-looking cat.
What a bad extra.
Like a bad stand-in. Y'all don't really look alike, but you're wearing about the same thing he did. I'm trying to remember if he was wearing glasses or not.
You're like the backup quarterback. You got paid and you didn't take any
I don't
hits.
play backup to anything.
I feel like you're the dad that works at home and does really, really good and has a really dry sense of humor. Actually, right now, you kind of look like Matt Walsh to me.
Wow.
Okay, anyways. The Don Keys says this. The only advantage of playing in L.A. or New York would be the exposure for sure contracts.
Well, yes, but again, and just like anything, I know it's like this in every city, it can go really good and it be great there, or you can pull a Ben Simmons and it can go really bad and then you just turn into the laughingstock of everybody while paying those taxes. So like the Thibodeau fit you talked about. He wanted to go to a major market. That's great, but how major of a market is? I would love to see Giannis in Milwaukee, and his exposure and visibility from there has shown you can blow up just about anywhere. I wonder how much of an advantage it is per player, big time player, high draft pick, whatever, that goes to New York or LA or somewhere like that. Like what's the hit rate, money made to money lost when it comes to taxes versus exposure? Again, I'm not Matt Damon from Good Will Hunting, so I don't know how to come up with that. I'm not Rain Man. Once they start putting letters in math, they lost me. Especially when the letters are
English is English, math is math. Don't mix.
Don't mix the two. I don't get it. And then they put math and science. Who'd have thought that? What a stupid, terrible decision.
That's why I'm on a sports
It'll
show.
never work. All right, hey, if you like what you heard, go ahead and ring that bell. Turn those notifications on. We're bringing it every day daily from 2 to 3 Central, and we want you here. I can hear it ringing now.